Chapter 30, The Stunning Beauty Wiping Her Nose. Since Roman is so smart, education must be put on the agenda. Smart children should go to school and let them experience the pain of learning. Luowei made up her mind to find a good teacher for Roman. No, one was not enough. She had to find 7 or 8. Literature, mathematics, archery, painting, and music. Everything the knight wants to learn is arranged for him. If the knight does not learn, she will give him a small start. The children she raises must be fully developed in moral, intellectual, physical, artistic, and physical skills. Luowei looked at Roman's furry head, her heart brimming with passion, as if she suddenly transformed into a cruel parent of a chicken kid. Roman felt a chill on the back of his neck, and a look of confusion appeared on his small face. What's going on? Why does it feel so dark and windy here? Not long after, Tom sent someone back. Luowei saw that although he was young, he was very skilled in driving horses, so she called him into the yard. Is your name Tom? Tom was as thin as a hemp pole, and his sunken eye sockets lacked the support of fat and looked like 2 holes. He was wearing Roman clothes with sleeves and trouser legs too short. He stood there cowering, and his body was shaking with fear. Don't be afraid. Just let me ask you questions and answer them. Luowei couldn't bear to see the child like this, and Tom reminded her of Roman on the first day. Why, yes, my name is Tom. Tom lowered his head in fear, his spine bent like a cooked shrimp. Luowei lowered her voice. How old are you this year? 16 years old. Tom lied. He was actually only 11 years old, but he was afraid that Luowei would not want him because of his young age, just like the owner of the carriage shop kicked him out. The 11-year-old boy was just growing up. He ate a lot, but he was too thin and couldn't do heavy work, so his bosses didn't want him. Seeing Tom's lowered head and trembling legs, Luowei didn't ask any more questions. This child's psychological quality is not as strong as Roman's. After being obsessed with Roman for several years, he has also suffered more injustices in the world and needs to change step by step. Tom, you were recruited by Roman. Since he likes you, you must be something special. From now on, you will live in a room at the side of the courtyard. The kitchen will provide you with 2 meals a day. In addition, you'll be given a salary of 20 copper coins a day. Are you willing? Tom suddenly raised his head, then lowered it quickly, with excitement and ecstasy in his voice. I do, miss. He kept bowing to express his gratitude to Luowei. 20 copper coins a day. Food and accommodation are also included. The grooms in the carriage house only have 50 copper coins a day, and they are not provided with food and accommodation. The groom apprentices under the age of 18 don't even have money, and they sometimes have to pay. Tom felt like he had been hit on the head by a huge pie, and his whole body felt dizzy, as if he was drunk. Roman is right. This is truly the kindest, most kind and beautiful noble lady. Tom didn't dare to look at Luowei, so he looked at Roman gratefully. When Roman caught his look, he raised his chin high and looked proud. With the groom, there are also errand boys. Luowei had always used Troy as an errand boy, and thinking about it, she felt a little sorry for him. The origin of Troy is a mystery. Not only is his swordsmanship extraordinary, but he also has a stunning griffin mount. Even Princess Lillian looked up at him. She really shouldn't be bossing around for such a big shot. Thinking of Lillian, Luowei asked Tom again, did Miss Rossetti say when she would be back? Tom shook his head. Miss, no. Luowei thought for a moment and then ordered. Then you wait at the entrance of the college later. If Miss Rossetti comes out, ask her to get in the car. The 2 knights are still living with her, and Lillian will definitely come back. Tom obeyed her instructions and ran happily to the side door where the carriage was parked. He liked to deal with horses. Roman also ran back to the flower bed, sticking his butt out and pulling weeds. He was pulling weeds from the flower bed. At first, Luowei thought he was maintaining the garden, but now she realized that he was pulling weeds to feed the horses. Roman, come here. Miss. Roman immediately put down the grass and ran over. He wiped his muddy hands on his pants and wiped away the snot that was about to fall out. Seeing the scene, Luowei felt that her education had a long way to go. If Roman was allowed to grow up like this, she couldn't imagine how beautiful it would be in the future when a 1.89 meter tall, handsome man discharged his soulful eyes while wiping the snot flowing from his mouth with the back of his hand. Miss, what's wrong? Roman raised his head and looked at her obediently. He didn't even know that there was a snot mark flying out of his face and a black mouth made of mud. Luo Wei hesitated, wanting to say something, but afraid of hurting his self-esteem. Finally, she took out her handkerchief and wiped his face. "Roman, I will give you the money for the horse's fodder. From now on, Tom will be your little brother. Can you help me take care of him?" No man was not excited when he heard his younger brother, and so was the boy. He immediately smiled with a pair of crescent eyes. "Okay." Luo Wei gave him the handkerchief. A big brother must behave like a big brother. From now on, you must set an example and make Tom a good groom who loves cleanliness and good etiquette. Roman held the handkerchief in both hands. "I will definitely do it." Luo Wei successfully handed over the handkerchief stained with snot and felt relieved. She went up to the second floor and returned to the bedroom reserved for herself. There are currently only 3 people living on the second floor, namely her, Lillian, and Troy. Lillian and Troy were both away, so it was quiet. She wanted to try divination again to see if yesterday's divination was an accident, or if she really had this ability. Luo Wei took out the turtle shell, with her left hand at the bottom and right hand at the top. She placed the turtle shell in the palm of her hand and closed her eyes. In the deep night sky, the stars flow and the star map reappears. Luo Wei looked at the rotating golden star track and asked the first question. "Am I the daughter of King Ater?" This time, the turtle shell was not cracked, but the stars in the sky still gave some hints. If yesterday's divination was prediction, today's divination is Kasuism. According to common sense, Kasuism is simpler than prediction. After observing the stars in the sky, Luo Wei frowned. It's not the case. Did I guess wrong? The original owner was not the daughter of Queen Isis and the king, but the one who eloped with her? Luo Wei looked at the star map again. Am I the daughter of Queen Becky Isis? The stars twinkled, the tail of wisdom flew across, and the stars once again gave the answer. No! Luo Wei looked at the stars, and this time she was really surprised. So she is not a bloodline of King At or Queen Isis. She is just a fisherman orphan whose parents both died? Well, I blame myself for watching too many bloody dramas. As soon as I heard this kind of drama, I had the illusion that I was the heroine. Since it is not her, it means that Athena has recognized the wrong person, and some of her actions and appearance have misunderstood her. Do you want to explain it to her? Luo Wei didn't think it was necessary. There was no reason for her not to wear the vest that was delivered to her door. When Athena asked her last night if her last name was Isis, she answered that way on purpose, just to make the other party misunderstand. What's more, she couldn't explain to Athena. She couldn't tell the whole truth that she was a civilian. If you offend them in the first place, you will die faster if you are exposed. Luo Wei closed her eyes and exited the spiritual world. After reading the star chart today, her dizziness was actually relieved. It seemed that casuistic divination was really much easier than prediction. Half an hour later, Bella came back with a cart full of ingredients. She was very happy when she returned from shopping. For the first time, she felt the benefits of being a money-splitting boy. Because she had a lot of things to buy, the merchants were all vying to sell them to her. They were worried that she wouldn't be able to carry them when they were sold out, so they even used carts to deliver them to her door. Bella happily recounted what she had just seen in the market, and Luo Wei smiled and shook her head. These businessmen are all human beings. There are several families in the city who can afford meat. Shouldn't they hurry up when they see her as a big customer? After all, the current meat preservation technology is not good, and salt and spices are also expensive. It is not cost-effective to make dried meat. It will rot if left for a long time, and the loss will be huge. The poor couldn't afford meat, and the merchants couldn't sell all the meat. Bella was about to move the ingredients into the kitchen. Roman and Tom saw it and came to help. The 2 boys carried the heavy milk bucket through the door, grinning and exerting their strength. When everything was ready, Luo Wei put on a clean apron and walked into the kitchen with Bella. Master, do you want to cook in person? Bella opened her mouth wide. Luo Wei nodded. Come, I'll teach you how to make bread. This is the palace's secret recipe. Bella was so excited that she didn't know where to put her hands and feet. Can she also learn the palace's secret recipe? Luo Wei asked Bella to light a fire, put the spices into the clay pot according to the marinade recipe, cover the lid and simmer it, and then taught her to take out the milk and start making butter. Bread without butter has no soul and cannot exude the aroma of milk. When making butter, I also made cream. Anyway, it's all one step. There was no high-speed beater, so the eggs and milk needed to be frothed manually. Luowei asked Bella to call the 2 helpers who took care of the night, plus Roman and Tom, and the 6 people stirred for 2 hours before they succeeded. There was no white sugar and gelatin, so Luowei used marzipan and isinglass instead to make the cream base of the cake. She didn't know how it would taste. She made small cakes and verbally guided Bella to make small bread. The bread needed to ferment and the butter needed to precipitate, so Bella was a little anxious. Why is it so troublesome for the palace chef to make bread? Can he serve the master on time? The sun is setting in the west, and the sunset is climbing into the sky. Luowei put the cake embryo into the bread kiln and began to refine the salt. Thick yellow sea salt grains have a bitter taste, and adding them to brine will destroy the original flavor of the brine. It must be purified and removed before it can be used. There is also marzipan, which contains a lot of impurities and is not sweet enough. Luowei sighed and started purifying the sugar again. Bella, remember to buy a bag of wheat and bring it back tomorrow. I will teach you how to make maltose. She wants to train Bella to be a chef who combines Chinese and Western skills to comfort her poor stomach, which has been tortured in this world. I understand, Master. The expression on Bella's face seemed to be crying and laughing, sometimes encouraging and sometimes discouraged, until she was bald. Her hands had been churning cream all afternoon, and she was still trembling now. She suddenly felt that it was not necessary to learn this palace secret recipe. But after taking a look at the owner, who had just disliked the bitter taste of salt and started to dislike the sweetness of sugar, Bella let out a long sigh. What can she do? When she meets such a delicate and picky master, she has to do it no matter how troublesome it is. She can't let her kind and beautiful master do it herself, right? As a qualified maid, you must learn to share your master's worries. Bella regained her confidence and boldly took the marzipan from Luowei's hand and said angrily, "How could you do such a thing?" She picked up the hammer and smashed the marzipan. "This kind of rough work is not for your delicate fingers. Please let me, Bella, do it." Luowei couldn't help but laugh when she saw Bella wielding the hammer in such a manner that one man could stand against all others. "Bella, you're so cute." She was lucky to travel here and meet so many lovely people. Bella blushed when she heard her compliment, and she swung faster. The master's voice must have magic power, she thought. Maybe it could confuse people like a siren. Otherwise, how could she suddenly have endless strength after hearing her words? In the evening, Lillian came back. Luowei looked out of the window and saw her holding a wooden box in her hand and hurriedly walked into the room of the 2 knights. In the room, "Robert, Vincent, wake up." Lillian walked to their bed and called softly. The 2 knights woke up in a daze, with high fever in their bodies and unbearable pain in their organs, but they still managed to get up and salute her. "Your Highness." "Don't move. Lie down quickly." Lillian pressed them down. "You are seriously injured. There is no need to salute." The 2 of them lay down, their faces reddened by the high fever showing a strange grayness. Lillian put down the wooden box, took out the wand from her sleeve, and cast 2 spells. No peeking, no eavesdropping. After reciting the incantation, she opened the wooden box and took out 2 egg-sized crystal bottles with narrow mouths and round bellies. "This is the healing potion I asked for from the dean. 1 bottle for each of you." She put the crystal bottle into their hands. "Drink quickly." "Your Highness, I am incompetent. How can I deserve your favor?" The 2 knights were moved to tears. The healing potion is a high-grade magic potion worth thousands of gold, and there is no market for it. The princess is willing to ask for the potion for these 2 little knights. How can they not be grateful? Lillian said disapprovingly, "The loyalty of knights is priceless. You are the people I trust most, and you are injured just to protect me. I can't live up to your loyalty. Drink the potion quickly, my brave knights. I cannot lose your protection and following." Robert and Vincent burst into tears immediately. Their princess is so kind and loves her subordinates. She will definitely become a benevolent monarch. The 2 knights quickly drank the potion. The powerful energy of the high-grade potion repaired their damaged organs. After a few breaths, their faces became much more normal. Lillian saw their changes with her own eyes, and her high-spirited heart finally let go. "Great! The magic potion is effective. You should be fine after practicing for a while." As she was speaking, the two knights suddenly rolled out of bed, endured the severe pain, picked up their swords, and knelt down to her. "What are you doing? Go back and lie down." Lillian took 2 steps back. "No, Your Highness, Princess, please accept our oath," the two knights said in unison, with a firm attitude. Lillian looked moved and slowly stood up straight, clasping her hands in front of her belly. "My knights, please make a promise. I swear on my life to dedicate all my loyalty to you. It is my honor to sacrifice for you, and it is my faith to dedicate myself to you. My sword will fight to protect you until the last moment of my life. This oath will remain until death." After Robert and Vincent finished speaking, they bowed their heads and raised their swords respectfully. "I am willing to accept your oath and give you honor." Lillian solemnly stretched out her right hand and touched their heads one by one. The oath of allegiance was sworn, and the two knights stood up. This was the second time they swore an oath. The first time they swore an oath was when the king awarded them the Order of Knighthood. Lillian looked at the two upright young men and felt very satisfied in her heart. With 2 bottles of magic potion, she gained 2 confidence, and her efforts were generously rewarded. Chapter 32, The Devil Must Be Tempting Me. The two knights became energetic after drinking the potion. Seeing that they still had energy, Lillian decided to sit down and talk to them for a while. "This is how we were rescued, thanks to Lua Wei. Otherwise, we would have been buried in the devil's belly." She told the two knights how they were rescued by Lua Wei and Troy, and how they came here. Of course, they were convinced by Lillian's words, but they still had some doubts about Lua Wei and Troy. "Your Highness, I find Lua Wei's words very suspicious. She said she discovered the monster through divination, but even astrologers find it difficult to predict accurately. How could she, a junior magic apprentice, predict it?" Vincent said. Lillian shook her head. "You have to believe that there are geniuses in this world. Some people's talents cannot be judged by common sense. And don't forget, we brought the monster ourselves. When we entered the Devil's Sea, we didn't abide by the taboos there and were contaminated with the dark atmosphere, which attracted the monster." Vincent thought the same thing. They were infected with the dark aura in the demonic sea without knowing it. As a result, the dark aura absorbed more and more magic power along the way. It suddenly broke out and attracted monsters when they reached the pine forest. It really had nothing to do with others. Robert questioned, "But Your Highness, if Lua Wei is really a member of the royal family, then how come she wandered to the seaside and was chased by pirates and still asked us for help? Why didn't her bodyguards show up at that time?" Lillian thought, there was serious internal strife in the royal family. She may have been persecuted by a certain force and had to disguise herself as a civilian and ask for help from us. As for her guard, she may have been held back by others at the time, and she was found later. Robert suddenly realized, it is indeed possible. Now that I think about it, those pirates are also very strange. I have never heard of pirates on that coast before, so why do they suddenly appear? Vincent nodded. Yes, and most pirates just rob treasures, but those pirates are so vicious that they kill everyone they see and even burn down fishing villages. Robert. Fortunately, they were all shot to death by random arrows ordered by His Highness, which can be regarded as revenge for the innocent fishermen. Thinking of the tragic situation they saw in the village later, the two looked at each other with pity. "Let's not talk about this anymore. Since Lua Wei doesn't want to tell her identity, we don't want to investigate," Lillian sighed. "Besides, who doesn't have a secret of their own?" This time she traveled under the guise of patrolling the border, but she actually wanted to find witches hiding among the people and get traces of the legendary necromancer. Unfortunately, not only was it not found, but a team of people was also lost. "Your Highness, you..." Robert was about to say something, but he smelled a domineering aroma in his nose, and his head suddenly felt empty. "What does it smell like?" Vincent also took a deep breath. "It smells so good." "It's the smell of spices." Lillian immediately looked out the window. The scents of various spices are harmoniously intertwined, and the mild and mellow spicy fragrance is fascinating. The fragrance is also blended with a fragrant oil smell, and the afternote is sweet and fragrant. "Goo-goo." A hungry grunt sounded in the room. The two knights instantly turned red and held their stomachs. "You stay here, I'll go out and take a look." Lillian turned around awkwardly, not wanting the two of them to know that her voice had just been heard. After the princess left, the two knights whispered in the room. Why does it smell so good? Is there a sacrifice being held somewhere? Sacrifice? Is the smell of sacrifice so strange? Why do I feel hungry when I smell it? I think there's a familiar smell in this. Vincent racked his brains to think, and suddenly his eyes lit up. I know! It smells like meat. Meaty. Robert gulped and swallowed. What kind of meat is this fragrant? It can't be. The two of them thought of something and looked at each other in horror. It can't be human flesh, right? Vomit. In the bedroom, the sound of two people vomiting loudly came from the room. Lillian walked out of the door quickly and found that the fragrance outside was several times stronger than in the room. The whole yard was filled with this smell, which made her mouth salivate continuously. Could this be some kind of poisonous fragrance? Lillian was startled and quickly covered her nose with a handkerchief. She looked around for a week and found that everyone in the yard had disappeared at some point. It was quiet and strange. The smell got stronger the closer it got to the kitchen. Lillian held her breath and walked towards the kitchen. Your Highness the Princess. Why did you come out? Lillian turned around and saw two knights in full armor. They wrapped their mouths and noses with cloth towels, and the swords in their hands reflected sharp light. We are here to protect you. Robert looked very solemn. We suspect that this is human flesh. Vincent nodded. Yes, Princess, there is danger here. Maybe there is a devil cooking a living person. How could meat be so fragrant? It must be a smell created by the devil to tempt them. The two knights were so determined, and Lillian's expression also became serious. The smell is coming from the kitchen, Vincent. Robert, you must be careful. Yes, Your Highness. The two knights walked to the kitchen door as if facing an enemy. They heard the devil's chuckle coming from inside, which strengthened their guess. With a bang sound, they kicked down the door panel and raised their swords high. Damn devil, please die. The wooden door fell to the ground, causing a burst of flying ash, which also allowed the two knights to see clearly the scene in the kitchen. I saw 6 living people gathered around a pot, holding knives and forks in their hands. They all turned their heads to look at them, their eyes drooling. Robert and Vincent were frightened by this strange scene. They're possessed by demons and they're trying to eat us. Luowei was shocked by the two people kicking in the door. She could barely keep calm at first, but when she heard that they suspected that she was possessed by a demon, she couldn't calm down anymore. Somegochi, she shouted sternly. Who allowed you to kick in the door? Is this the upbringing of a knight? Lillian outside heard Luowei's voice and immediately realized something was wrong. She walked to the door and pushed the two knights away. Luowei, are you in there? As she spoke, she glanced at everything in the kitchen. When she saw the fragrant pot and the ingredients on the chopping board, she had a dumbfounded expression on her face. Sorry, we misunderstood. Lillian said apologetically. We have never smelled such a fragrant smell, so we thought. Anyway, I am very sorry, Luowei. Luowei didn't expect this to be the reason. It's okay. Teacher Lillian, I didn't tell you in advance, so I scared you. We rushed in without knowing it clearly, Lillian said, very embarrassed. But what are you making? It smells so good. Luowei put down her knife and fork and explained, I'm doing my pharmacy homework. This is a fragrant recipe I made. Some beef and chicken are stewed in it. Do you want to try it? When she heard it was beef and chicken, Lillian said excitedly, Is that okay? After all, this is your homework. Chapter 33, How Can You Drink Water? Of course, I've done a lot. Luowei warmly invited. But the place here is too small. Let's move to the restaurant first, and I'll ask Bella to bring it to us. Luowei and Lillian left the kitchen. Vincent and Robert looked at each other with bitter smiles. They were really embarrassed today. Not only were they embarrassed, but they also implicated Her Highness the Princess. It was clear that they were the ones who misunderstood first, but the princess took all the responsibility. Apologize, Vincent asked. Robert gritted his teeth and said, Tao. A glorious knight is never shy to make up for his mistakes. Outside the restaurant, the two of them bent down towards Luowei. I'm sorry, Miss Luowei. The two explained their faults, promised to pay double compensation, and begged for her forgiveness. It doesn't matter. 2 nights. If you know your mistakes and can correct them, there is no greater good. Luo Wei accepted their apology. Liu Yan's eyes showed surprise. If you know your mistakes and can correct them, there is no greater good. She savored these 2 sentences and felt that there was a strange rhythm that made them sound particularly deep and powerful when read. Luo Wei must be from an ancient royal family and have profound literary accomplishments to be able to speak well. In fact, Luo Wei just rhymed subconsciously when translating into their language. The 4 of them sat at the dining table, and Bella quickly cut the beef into pieces and put it on a plate and brought it to them. 4 or 5 pieces of beef the size of a fingernail were placed on a round iron plate, with a spoonful of soup sprinkled on the bottom. The meat was dotted with 2 small and cute mint leaves, and a handful of carrot shreds were placed next to it. Exquisite presentation, full of color and aroma. But for the 2 nights, this little meat was not enough to fill their teeth. However, the aroma of meat that made them salivate lingered in their noses, and they had no time to think about why there was so little meat, so they reached out to grab the meat. Lillian was also hungry, but seeing that Luo Wei hadn't moved yet and there was no spoon in front of her, she hesitated. Fortunately, she hesitated because Bella quickly brought another tray and placed 2 cutlery wrapped in white silk on the edge of the tray. Luo Wei skillfully picked up the knife and fork, pierced the meat with the fork, brought it into her mouth gracefully, and chewed it slowly without making any sound. Lillian watched her from the corner of her eye, learned how to use the fork, and elegantly picked up the meat and put it into her mouth. The 2 knights were holding meat in their hands, with soup still hanging from their fingertips. Seeing their actions, they suddenly felt a little embarrassed. They were neither eating nor eating the meat in their hands. After struggling for a few seconds, they threw the meat into their mouths and chewed it with enjoyment. This chewy beef doesn't taste even a trace of mutton. It's salty, fragrant, and a little sweet. It tastes delicious and doesn't even have a trace of bitterness. Even Lillian couldn't help but her pupils dilated for a moment. The food she used in the palace was already the best, but the meat was inevitably astringent when eaten. This meat was so delicious. She couldn't help but speed up her eating. As soon as she lowered her head, she had eaten all the meat. Lillian was shocked. She couldn't eat so much meat in one meal when she was in the palace, but she finished it. The 2 knights had afterthoughts on their faces after finishing the meal. They usually ate a lot, and this meat only opened their appetites, making them even hungrier after eating. Seeing this, Luo Wei gave Bella a look. Bella turned around and brought in 4 glasses of lemonade with sugar and placed them gently on the table. Luo Wei explained to the 3 of them. Bella also made some desserts, which will be served later. Please drink some lemonade to clear your mouth. In fact, the dessert had been prepared a long time ago, but because the order of serving was wrong, she was afraid that the taste of the cake would be reduced, so she asked Bella to serve lemonade first. At this time, lemons were already being used, but not much, and it would take a few more centuries for lemons to become popular. Luo Wei picked up the ceramic cup and took a sip. The slightly sour and slightly sweet lemonade had a unique aroma. It was not as good as the one she drank in her previous life, but it was still okay. However, when she raised her head, she found that none of the 3 people in front of her had drank, and she couldn't help but wonder, "Don't you like the taste of lemon?" Lillian showed an embarrassed look. "It's not that I don't like it. It's just that, Luo Wei, drinking water can easily cause stomach upset. We usually drink wine." She was embarrassed to say that she thought Luo Wei was of noble birth when she saw her eating just now, but now she was a little strange when she saw her drinking water. People with slightly better conditions would not choose to drink water. Even if they did, they would only drink clean spring water in the mountains. Everyone knows that the water in the city is not only dirty, but also poisonous. There are also small bugs in it. Drinking it will cause stomachache. The feces in the city were discharged into the river. Because they were afraid that they would get sick if they got wet, most nobles did not even take a bath and only occasionally wiped their bodies with wine or children's urine. The 2 knights also showed resistance. They often traveled around and had been fooled by stomachaches caused by drinking water, so they did not dare to drink. I don't know why Miss Luo Wei, who is so particular about food, is so careless when it comes to drinking. Luo Wei knew what they were thinking as soon as she saw their expressions. She almost forgot that people at this time thought the water was poisonous. I hadn't thought about it before because Bella and Roman usually drink water, and they didn't think there was anything wrong with her drinking water. Thinking about it now, they must be too poor to afford alcohol and have never lived the life of a rich person, so they thought it was normal for her to drink water. Lua Wei was embarrassed. This is water drawn from a well. It is boiled water that has been cooled down. It has been disinfected and sterilized by high temperature. Drinking it will not cause stomachache. And you are all very weak now. Drinking alcohol is not conducive to your recovery. It is better to drink sterile boiled water. Lillian was a potion master. When she heard about high-temperature sterilization, she seemed to have thought of something and looked hesitantly at the water in the cup. The liquid in the cup is transparent and looks really clean. Moreover, she looked at Lua Wei. If Lua Wei drank this water every day and didn't get sick, does that mean what she said was right? After thinking for a while, Lillian decided to believe Lua Wei's words. She picked up the glass of water and took a serious sip. Her eyes lit up. The taste was sweet and refreshing, with a sour aroma of lemon. It was surprisingly delicious and quenched her thirst. It tastes completely different from wine and ale. The princess had already drank. What could the two knights do? They picked up the cup and poured it in as if they were mourning. Forget it, it's just a stomachache, and it's not necessarily fatal. Comforting themselves in their hearts, the two of them were prepared for abdominal pain. Seeing this, Lua Wei rang the bell on the table, and a dozen seconds later, Bella brought up the cake and bread. She opened the lid of the meal, and a sweet fragrance instantly spread out, filling the room. Lillian smelled it carefully and seemed to smell the aroma of eggs, milk, and wheat. It's strange. She used to feel fishy when she smelled the smell of egg milk. Why does it smell so fragrant today? She looked at the yellow cake cut into triangles on the table, hesitated, and then reached out to the golden bread first. Lillian was not interested in this bread. The flour outside the palace was not ground as finely as inside the palace, and it was not fermented enough. Sometimes it tasted bad in the throat. If it weren't for hunger, she wouldn't want to eat this bread. Lillian thought in disgust, picked up the bread and took a bite, but her eyes immediately changed. Why is this bread so soft and fluffy? It tastes rich, sweet, and fragrant, and there seems to be a layer of filling in the middle. She broke open the bread and saw that it was a ball of white paste. It was dense and delicate and melted as soon as she took a sip. It was as sweet as clouds in the sky. Lillian ate faster and faster, eating half of the palm-sized bun in a few bites, and then looked at the cake. The first two foods did not disappoint her, and this cake might also bring her a different kind of surprise. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later, that's all we know. They picked up the cake first and looked surprised as soon as they took it. Why is this cake so light? Cake at this time is actually very similar to bread. Cake originated in ancient Egypt. Bread and cake are both made from flour, but honey and eggs are added to the cake to make it slightly softer than bread. So Vincent and Robert were very surprised when they picked up the cake that was as light as a cloud. The cake was not only light, but also elastic. How did it do that? The two rough guys immediately decided that no matter what he did, they would eat first. Taking one bite, it felt like biting into a moist and fluffy cloud. The sweet and fragrant flavor seemed to float up into the clouds, making the two of them intoxicated. Take another bite. It's so fragrant and delicious that you can't wait to swallow it all in your tongue. The two of them no longer cared about tasting and started to eat hungrily. After taking 2 or 3 bites, they finished the cake and could only lick their fingers in a daze. Lillian ate the cake in small bites, her eyes narrowed with happiness. I didn't expect this cake to be so delicious. Seeing their intoxicated expressions, Lua Wei secretly thought that Western recipes were more in line with Western tastes. Although they also found the braised pork just delicious, they were not so obsessed with it. As expected, I am a Westerner who has been addicted to sweetness all my life. The pursuit of sweetness is engraved in my genes. But then Lua Wei thought about it. She prepared the braised pork according to her own preference. Due to the lack of spices, the taste was actually much worse than real braised pork. No wonder people didn't like it. If Vincent and Robert knew what she was thinking, they would definitely tell her that it wasn't that they didn't like it, but that it was too little, and it really wasn't enough to fill the gap between her teeth. The taste is gone before you can even taste it. Originally, they were all people who ate a lot of meat and drank a lot. And they also had big throats. If they didn't pay attention to the meat, they would slide down. How could they taste it? Besides, it is meat cooked with expensive spices. When you eat it, you feel like you are worshiping in a church. Of course, you should have a pious and respectful attitude. How can you show a greedy expression?